Imagine that every single person you meet in your life hates you for no reason. Not just people, even animals. That was Mila's reality from the moment she was born. No long ago, in New York City, there was a girl named Mila, almost 18 years old, normal in every way you could see. Not mean, not cruel, not even unpleasant to look at, but somehow she was hated by everyone. Even animals wanted nothing to do with her. No friends, no warmth from her parents, no one who cared. Even the crowds on the street ignored her. All she wanted, her one goal in life, was for someone to care. Even just her parents. That's it. Until the day she discovered that everything she'd suffered wasn't random. It was a curse, cast by a demon. But is that actually true? Do demons even exist? And who is this girl? Really? Let's find out. What's up guys, welcome back to Extra Daily channel. Today's story it's a little different. We're following a girl who discovers she's been living under a curse placed by a powerful demon, one that made everyone around her pushed her away from day one. Okay, this channel about fantasy, supernatural stories. If that's your thing, subscribe and catch new video every weekend. And don't forget to do a like. Alright, let's go. Mila woke up to her alarm and let out a long, slow breath. She'd spent the whole night crying. She got up around 7, walked to her closet, and pulled out something for her school. Everything she owned was black, but I feel like she just had no variety in her wardrobe. Honestly, same. She headed downstairs. The whole family was already at the table. Her mom, her dad, and her little brother Adrian, who went to the same school. The school was about 20 minutes away from their house, on foot actually. The moment Mila sat down, the energy at the table shifted. Everyone's face changed. That look, like she'd walked in and ruined something. Her parents kept talking to Adrian, like she wasn't here. Adrian said, I am a little nervous about the tournament today. His father said, don't be. You're strong, just relax and focus on winning. His mother said, and Marcel from the next door is on your team. He's really good. You two will do great together. Mila said, tournament? Today? Her father's expression darkened. Her mother didn't even look at her. Her dad answered flatly, yes, today. And why aren't you at school already? Mila said, I'm going. I just wanted to say, today is my birthday. I was hoping we could celebrate. Can I at least come with you to the match? But unfortunately, no one remembered that it was her birthday. Adrian shouted, no! You are bad luck. We'll lose if you show up. His mother said, don't talk like that. And her father said, sorry, sweetheart. All the seats already taken. We barely found spots for ourselves. Mila said, then can you at least celebrate my birthday later? But his father said, oh, tonight we have a dinner with the Kirsel family, and tomorrow we already promised the neighbors. It's a busy week. We'll figure something out another time. Mila nodded slowly. She already knew what another time meant. So she got up, said goodbye, and walked out a door. Nobody answered, but behind her, Adrian was already saying things about her that had nothing kind in them. On her walk to school, Mila thought about her life, about why everyone hated her, about whether she'd ever understand it. There was a house on her usual road, a neighbor who owned a dog. Every single time Mila passed that house, the dog would go crazy. The owner had eventually chained it up all day just because of her. Today she walked by wondering if it was tied or not, but it was tied, but it still barked the whole time she passed. Such a weird dog. 10 minutes later, she reached school. Before she even stepped inside, the look started. The cursed one is here. This she. She is so ugly. No, she's worse than ugly. She's a monster. And like that. But Mila kept her eyes forward and walked in. She wasn't gonna give anyone the satisfaction of reaction. When she entered the classroom, she sat in the back, like always. First period was math. She was actually good at it. Second and third came and went. Then fourth period, history and philosophy. Mrs. Laura walked in. She easily the best looking teacher in the school, and her eyes swept across the room. She spotted Mila in the back, then moved to the board. Mrs. Laura said, today we're talking about mythology. She started with ancient Greece, the gods, the legends, the story that lasted thousands of years, and then she paused on one particular name. Mrs. Laura said, Scorpius, king of the demons. At that moment, something moved inside Mila the moment she heard that name. She couldn't explain it. Mrs. Mila continued, Scorpius was one of the most powerful beings in ancient legend, the ruler of all demons, a force that wanted to destroy the world. Then she said, but no one knows where he is now. A student called out, maybe he died. Another said, how thought? A third said, maybe a scorpion pinched him. But the first said, yo idiot, a scorpion stings. It doesn't pinch. The class laughed and Mrs. Laura smiled. But Mila wasn't laughing. She was staring at the drawing on the board with an intensity that didn't belong to a regular classroom moment. Then, out of nowhere, a crack of the thunder spilled the sky outside, and rain began hammering against the windows. Mrs. Laura walked over and immediately spotted the storm rolling in fast. Alright, everyone. We'll pick this up another time. Looks like we're calling it early today. The students filed out one by one, Mila among them, and she began the walk home. Except now her mind was somewhere else entirely. She couldn't stop thinking about that name, Scorpius, about that strange feeling that happened inside her when she saw his face on the board. But before we go any further, there is something you need to understand. The way everyone treated Mila, this wasn't something new. It didn't start yesterday, or even this year's. It started before she was even born. About 18, 19 years ago, Mila's mother, Tina, was in the early months of her pregnancy. At first, she was thrilled. She'd finally had the child she'd always wanted. But by third month, everything changed. A wave of something dark crept into her. Hatred, resentment, a kind of revolution she couldn't explain or control. She wanted that baby gone. She stopped eating probably, hoping, praying almost, that the pregnancy just wouldn't survive. But it did. Months later, Tina gave a brace to her daughter, and that day, a day that should have been filled with joy, felt like a funeral instead. Tina and her husband both felt it, like the world had simply shut every door in their faces, and they had no idea why. Because here is the thing, Mila wasn't ugly, she wasn't deformed, she was just a baby, an innocent baby, like any other. For days, Tina refused to nurse her. Her husband practically begged her to, but she wouldn't budge. Eventually, the hospital staff had to step in, except even the nurses. Even the wet nurses brought in specifically for this couldn't bring themselves to feed her either. But somehow, this tiny baby had managed to repel everyone right from the very beginning. Eventually, the family was discharged and had no choice but bring Mila home with them. At first, Tina forced herself to nurse her, maybe twice a day at best. But even that didn't last. Before long, she stopped completely, and Mila's father was left with no option but to switch her to formula. There were nights, many of them, when Mila's parents simply leave her alone in her room for hours, crying, while they'll turn the TV up loud enough to drown out the sound. Some nights, deep down, they almost hoped she'd cry herself to exhaustion and just stop, that the whole situation would somehow resolve itself. But there was something else, something no one could see, something that had been quietly watching over Mila this entire time, making sure she survived, no matter what. Because Mila wasn't ordinary, not even close. There was a future waiting for her, something far bigger than anyone around her could imagine. And unfortunately, before that day could ever come, she had to survive everything that came first. Okay, Mila arrived home to an empty house. No one was there, not surprising. She walked into the kitchen, baked herself a small cake, and stuck a few candles on top. Then she sat down and waited for 4 o'clock to roll around, so she could celebrate her own birthday by herself. The minutes scrolled by as she sat there, watching the clock in silence. And the second the hands hit 4 o'clock, she hit the subscribe button, and she became my followers. Yeah, her life changed for the better, so do the same to improve your life. So what happened that the entire house shook violently. For a few seconds, Mila couldn't process what was happening. The walls were rattling so hard the furniture slid across the floor, like the whole house had become a toy in some giant's hands. She grabbed onto the table, trying to steady herself, but then a horrifying realization hit her. The ground beneath her feet wasn't steady anymore. It was moving fast, like the entire house was being dragged across the wall toward somewhere she couldn't even know. And then it got worse. An unnatural cold crept into the room. Not the kind of cold you feel in the winter, but something alive. Something crawling slowly across her skin. Her breath turned to thick white clouds in front of her face. Her fingertips went numb, frozen stiff. Even though every window in the house was still sealed shut, that's when real fear set in. Because this wasn't an earthquake, this wasn't a storm, this wasn't anything she'd ever experienced or even heard before. Then, all at once, every light in the house went out. The room plunged into total darkness. It only lasted a few seconds, but to Mila, it felt like an eternity. And then, The house slammed into something massive with a deafening crash, sending cracks racing through the walls and shattering plants in every direction. Mila lifted her head, gasping for breath, her whole body trembling with terror, and then she realized something even worse. The silence that followed the impact was somehow more terrifying than the crash itself. She scrambled to her feet and grabbed the biggest knife she could find, ready to defend herself against whatever this was. Then she heard it, strange, inhuman sounds coming from outside. She turned and froze in place. Creatures, monsters, twist shapes, peeling themselves out of walls and windows, as if they were materializing out of nothing. Oh my god, even I got scared while telling this part. Subscribe to the channel so the monsters don't attack me. So she didn't think, she just ran straight for the door and out into the open. But the second she stepped outside, the shock hit her so hard, she stopped dead in her tracks. Every single thing she could see was buried in snow. She looked around in complete disbelief, trying to make sense of where she was, how she'd gotten here, but the sounds of those creatures closing in behind her left no room for thinking. So she ran, and as hard as her legs could carry her, she had no idea where she was going. There was no path, no light, nothing to guide her, but she kept running anyway. While those monsters' shrieks crept closer behind her with every step, she ran for a minute that felt like hours, until the cold started tearing into her body, until her lungs felt like they were about to give out completely, until her legs finally gave up. She collapsed straight into the snow. She lay there, staring up at the dark sky above her, and in that moment, her whole life flashed before her eyes. Years of loneliness, days where nobody, not a single person, had carried with her she existed. A birthday that no one but her had even remembered. And now, here she was, about to die, alone, in the place she didn't recognize, with absolutely no one out there who'd even notice she was gone. She closed her eyes, ready to let it all end, but then a voice cut through the silence. "Get up, miss!" Her eyes fluttered open, and there, standing right in front of her, was a young man with an oddly striking, unfamiliar face. He looked down at her, muttering to himself. Guess the monster approach didn't work. "Who are you?" Mila managed weakly. He said, "You really are closeless, aren't you? I was trying to guide you toward the cave. You just..." She frowned, confused. "What are you talking about? And where even are we?" He shrugged, completely unbothered. "Doesn't matter where are you right now. What matters is you follow me into the cave now." Mila didn't love the sound of that, but honestly, what choice did she have? So she followed him in silence. They stepped into a massive ice cave with long icicles hanging down from the ceiling like frozen daggers. Strangely enough, it felt noticeably warmer inside than out. The young man gestured forward. "Now, walk over to the coffin in the center. I will tell you exactly what to do from here." Mila took a few steps forward, but the moment she crossed the threshold, the symbols carved into the walls around her lit up, glowing for just a few seconds before fading again. The young man smiled. "So it really is you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to step foot in here at all." She turned to him, baffled. "What? What are you even talking about?" "Listen carefully," he said. "Walk over to the coffin and free the person resting inside it." "And how exactly do I do that?" she said. He pointed toward the coffin. "Just pull out the dagger, the one buried in his chest. Pull it out, and your entire life changes. Forever. Your suffering ends. Today. I promise you that." Mila stepped toward the coffin, and as she got closer, she could finally make out who was lying inside. A man, his skin tinted with a faint reddish hue, two horns curling out from his head, his entire body covered in thick jet black feathers. She took a shaky breath and reached out toward the dagger buried in the chest of the figure lying before her. The moment her fingers touched it, a strange force gripped her hand, like the blade itself refused to let go. With everything she had, Mila ripped the dagger free, and the instant it left his chest, his eyes snapped open. But is the figure resting inside the coffin really Scorpius himself? And if it's him, then why didn't he kill Mila the moment she was born? And who exactly is this mysterious young man who led her to the cave? Was he really trying to help her? Or was he using her for something else entirely? And the biggest question of all, was the course Mila lived with her entire life even real? Or is there a far bigger secret waiting to be uncovered? Drop your theories and prediction in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss the next episode. See you guys next time.